ground. Covering the top was a vine-covered roof made of very old iron bars. They had rusted to the point that, when she'd stepped on one side, the bars had given way. The question now was, how was she going to get out? Standing, she checked her phone. It was working. The smartest thing to do would be to call for help. One of the farmers would show up with a rope and pull her out. And then what? She was where she shouldn't be. People would delight in yelling at her, treating her like a moron, threatening her. Legally, she could be denied permission to roam the estate. She didn't want to think what her mother would say. The consequences weren't worth asking for help. As Puck looked for a way out, she wondered what the place had been made for. Ice storage? A root cellar? From the look of it, it was a few 100 years old. At some point, the top had been covered and then left to rot. There were a few animal skeletons on the ground. Poor things had fallen in and couldn't get out. She moved her foot around, testing the damage. Not bad. That was good, since she was going to have to climb up. The stones on one side were too smooth, too big for climbing, but she thought she could make footholds in the dirt part of the wall. Looking up, she saw that a few feet down from the top was a place that had been hollowed out to form a ledge. She could see loose rocks along the lip. They looked like they'd been stacked there. Above the ledge, the ground tapered back, and there were hanging roots she could use to pull herself up. If she could just get to that shelf, she could get herself out. The soles of her shoes were thick and not flexible enough for climbing. She'd be better off barefoot. She untied her shoes and took them off. What to do with them was a question. String them around her neck as she climbed? Too distracting. She tossed a shoe up toward the ledge. The first one missed, but she landed the next throw. It took 5 tries to get the second shoe up there. When some of the rocks rained down, she covered her head. The climb was easier than she thought it would be. Years of tree climbing helped her place her feet. She didn't realize how scared she was until she reached the ledge. In relief, she leaned back against the rocks. When they scattered, she didn't mind. It was good to be off the bottom, and to be safe. The rest of the way up would be easy. Leaning back on her elbows, she gave herself a few minutes to calm her heart. Too bad she'd never be able to tell anyone about this adventure. Instead, she'd have to cover the top of the big hole and hope no one else fell in. She drew her knees up to her chest and rubbed her ankle. The movement shifted the dirt enough that she saw something metal on the floor of the ledge. When she dug it out, she discovered it was a watch, dirty and corroded. She tried to see the dials, but there was too little light. She wondered how it got there. Had someone dropped it over the side? There were some sticks in the dirt, and she used one to dig around a bit. What else was hidden in there? It was too dark to see much, so she took her phone out of her pocket and turned on the flashlight. There was dirt, pebbles, and sticks, nothing interesting. She was about to turn it off when she realized that what she was holding wasn't a stick. It was a bone. With a gasp, she dropped it. Slowly, afraid of what she was going to see, she turned the light around. Behind her, deep in the shadows, stretched out, was a full human skeleton. Strands of dark hair clung to its skull. Pieces of rotted clothing were beneath the bones. As Puck turned off the light, she was shaking. Her trembling fingers touched the buttons to call her mother. "Come and get me! Rescue me!" She wanted to cry. No, she thought, and disconnected. She had visions of what would happen if she told of her find. The police and newspaper reporters would come with their flashing lights. The hotel would fill with tourists who loved the macabre. Oxley Manor would become an entry in books about places of death. Puck took a few breaths and looked at the way up.